Awesome. We are running. Nancy.
Good morning.
Nancy, thank you very, very much for taking the time to speak with me today. It's a true pleasure. I'm sure, it's not going to be a surprise to a lot of people that I'll share this with, that you've been helping me tremendously with my life in general. And so it's truly a pleasure to have you here today. And I'd like, for people that don't know you, I'd like for you to introduce yourself and tell a little bit about who you are.
Okay, I'd be delighted. So I come from a very long line of dowsers. For those of you who are young, like you are, years ago, people didn't use engineering companies to find out where to dig for a well. They had a man that would walk the property with a crooked stick. And
Right.
when the stick started to point down, he'd say, there, that's where you dig for a well. In fact, 20 years ago, when I lived in the state of Vermont, we still had home phones and we had yellow pages. And in the yellow pages, there was a section for dowsers. In the 13th, 14th, 15th century in Italy, the men in my family were dowsers. You have to be an intuitive to be able to use a divining rod to walk on property and find out where to dig. But in that time, they were digging for not water wells. They were digging for mining, and they
Right.
were very, very well respected. Now, if the women did this, if the women talked to each other intuitively, they would be called strega, and they could be stoned to death. So
Yeah.
the women had to be quiet about a lot of things, but the men, of course, used the intuition in order to do mining because it was all about making money.
Sure.
They would take the people, my relatives, my great grandfathers, and put them on ships and send them to the north of Africa to find the mining for gold and silver and marble. And they were really well paid, very well respected people. Anyway, a lot of us in my family are clairvoyant. And so that means that we know things, we see pictures of things. I thought everybody was like me. And when I found out that everybody wasn't like me, I decided to go to college and learn psychology. So I have a degree in psychology and a master's degree also in psychology and a master's degree in metaphysics.
Mm.
So I was hired by the United States Army, the United States State Department, and DIA, CIA. I've worked for all the agencies. I have become an intuitive, but also I was a psychologist. So I was working for lots of embassies. My countries are Japan, Haiti, Zambia, Zimbabwe, South Africa, Morocco, and my last country was Canada. So I've worked all over the world. I've worked for all the agencies. I've used my intuitive skill, but also as a therapist to work with people, for people. And the little advantage I have is that I kind of know what's going on with a person. I don't have to have you lay on the couch for a year to figure out what's going on. So my work is, I would say, I'm going to call myself an intuitive coach. That's what I'm going to call myself.
Sure.
So that's my background.
Understood. And can you tell us a little bit about your life? How was it growing up? Where did you grow up before you went to school and all of that? Tell us a little bit about your
Yeah,
family.
so I grew up in a very typical Roman Catholic Italian American family. My maiden name is Annunziata Dina Guantalini.
Mm.
We were very Catholic, very religious. My uncle was a priest. We grew up with the understanding of Christianity, and I call myself a Christian. I married a Jewish man. I like all the religions. And I think that, we have to understand that religions are man-made. They're not perfect. we have tiny little pea brains trying to understand the concept of God and infinity. And so, I really do enjoy the metaphysical approach to all of it as well. So,
How would you describe I imagine that growing up Catholic, and then coming, I mean, you were already used to that intuitive side of things, which, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but to my understanding, in a church setting, in a Catholic church setting, it's not necessarily what's expressed as possible for everyone. In terms of it's you usually have your priest as the spiritual leader, and then you usually have the followers. But how did you come to understand that is truly available and accessible for everyone that wants to embark in a spiritual journey themselves? How did you come to go from a Catholic religion, to this kind of like metaphysical openness about the world? Like you said, there's a lot of religions and they're all man-made. So there is a bigger picture, and then there is the Catholic Church. So how did you go from Catholic to this expansion of infinity, as you said?
so I still, when I go to a hospital and they ask me to identify my religion, I still identify as a Roman Catholic.
Mhm.
I just add in so much more. So having studied and getting a master's degree in metaphysics, I just added in a whole lot more. So I believe in reincarnation, for instance. I believe that we've had hundreds of lifetimes. Now, if we look at our Bible and we look at the New Testament, we have lots of references to reincarnation. Although the Roman Catholic Church isn't going to talk about that, I always use my father, who is no longer with us, but of course he is in spirit.
Yes.
So my father's name was Joe Guandolini. He was a milkman. He was a really wonderful, simple, great man, but he would have a very hard time understanding the concept of reincarnation, hundreds of lifetimes, the fact that we've all been men and we've all been women and we've lived in these different cultures, and that we continue to come back to the earth plane for soul growth. I think Joe Guandolini would have a hard time understanding that. So even though we have references throughout the Bible about reincarnation, I think the Roman Catholic Church pretty much kept it simple. And please remember that 2,000 years ago, most people were illiterate. They
Right.
couldn't read or write. So when they went into the church and they saw the beauty and the paintings and the stations of the cross, that's how they understood, the Roman Catholic Church. The Roman Catholic Church also didn't spend a lot of time teaching or reading the Bible. They taught catechism, and they did a lot to make it simple and to make it understandable. It's a beautiful religion, but it is a man-made religion. I had a little bit of a problem with being a woman. I mean, why can't I be a priest?
Right.
And, that kind of thing. And my uncle had a wonderful parish. He had 7 nuns that waited on him hand and foot. This was like, was very interesting to me. Well, I grew up in the 60s. I'm 75 years old. So I grew up, in the time that we were rebelling against a lot of stuff. But, this is when we first became feminist, and
Right.
that
Right.
that that helped me to want to know more. But I'm going to say that I really do love the Roman Catholic Church. I like all of, I like the First Communion, getting married in a church. I really do appreciate all of that.
And how would you describe metaphysics for those who have heard the word before but don't necessarily understand what that entails.
Yeah, so metaphysics, it comes from the word meta, which is beyond, and physics, beyond the physical. So what's going on that we don't see? What is more? So I have to say now, with all science, we understand quantum physics. We understand that everything is just vibrating energy.
Right.
We have a universe of atoms and cells in our body, but we're just vibrating energy. The same as the chair that I'm sitting on is vibrating energy. So if we really look beyond the physical, beyond the table, the chair, our bodies, if we look at the vibrating energy that we are, and that collectively we all are in a universal way,
Mm-hmm.
what are we doing? What is our human race doing on the planet Earth? Are we evolving? Is there soul growth happening?
And would you say that that's the purpose,
That,
truly?
that's absolutely the purpose. That's why we come back. And I also will say that unless it hurts, we don't grow. So a single cell amoeba moves only because it's irritated. But when you look back on your life and you look at the most challenging and painful period in your life, you then have to say thank you, because that's when you had the most growth. That's when you learned the biggest lessons.
Yes,
So
and I want
we're
to say
here.
thank you too, because you were there through some of those moments, as you can probably remember, and your intuition is something that I remember. I don't want to say, I don't want to exaggerate with daily, but weekly. I remember how many conversations I had with you, where I was kind of formulating the next question as you're ending your sentence, and I didn't have to ask it, and to me that was just amazing because the next question I wanted to know, you just went into it as if it was natural. And if you would have seen my face over the phone at the time, I would just be like, so the intuition is your intuition is something that has helped me tremendously, especially
Thank
through
you.
times of discomfort.
And State Department, for instance, understood that about me when I was a community liaison officer, or when I was in my late 20s, I was the command family advisor. I was very young, but
Yes.
I had to advise the commander about people and whether or not they were special forces, whether or not they should be out there on posting,
Mm.
at the military base, or whether they would be better, back in the States. It would take, it would take a year of me being a therapist to figure that out. But it
That's
would
what I was
take,
going to ask.
yeah, it would take me an hour as a clairvoyant and as an intuitive to know.
Understood.
And so I was vetted. Listen, every government, and this is especially before we had Google Earth, every government uses intuitives,
Yeah,
every single one.
I heard of remote viewing.
Yes.
What do you can you say a little bit about that? Because I know some agencies use that.
So all of us, as clairvoyants, especially let me first say, a clairvoyant sees things, a clairaudient hears things, a clairsentient feels things,
Uh,
and a medium has an ability to communicate with people who have passed into spirit. But when you're a clairvoyant, you see stuff. So remote viewing is before Google Earth. We could say, yeah, I'm in the center of Africa, and I can draw a picture of the Russian base over there.
that's
I can draw where it might be. So remote viewing was what we did before Google Earth. Right now, we can see everything. We can see the car in your driveway. But back, when I was doing this, and again, I started this in the 70s. So we're talking about way before we had the technology.
right.
We still really use remote viewing. And a lot of this is just you need a top secret clearance with the government. A lot of this on my exit interview was stuff that, I have promised not to really talk about, and,
Yeah.
and I shouldn't,
Yes.
you know. But I think that all of that past work has really very little to do with what I do today. I, as a therapist, I'm not really the biggest believer in psychologists and therapists because I have to ask you questions and you have to give me answers. And it takes a very long time. I really like the concept of coaching. And as you can see, coaching has become a really big deal here. I think for all of you men, you know about coaches. I mean, look, Tiger Woods has 3 coaches. None of them can play golf as well as he does.
Yes.
They can see things. Or the movie Rocky, right? And he's boxing and he's got a coach who's not nearly as gifted as he is. But a coach is someone that not only asks you questions, but has the ability to say, guess what, Pedro? I want you to think about this. And I'd like for you to do a little homework this week. And I want you to try to change some of your thinking. So we all know that 95% of our thinking is subconscious, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the subconscious mind cannot filter. It cannot reason. All it does is record information. Now, the good news is the 5% of your thinking is conscious and it's the commander of your thinking. So when we identify the patterns of your subconscious, mind's thinking, when we identify that, then we can work on it. Then we can begin to change it. Then we can identify what are our addictions? Is it over shopping? Is it over controlling? Is it smoking cigarettes, drinking out? And we all have addictions. We cope with life somehow. But when we can identify what we're doing with a coach that may or may not be helpful to your life, and then when we start to work on it and we know what we need to dump, out of our conscious and subconscious thinking, when we do that, we become better people. So just like Tiger Woods is going to be a better golfer because he's got a few coaches, I think everyone would do very well to have someone to speak to that can actually help and coach them through their lives, help them to become better people, help them to become more successful business people, parents, husbands, wives. I think everybody should have a coach.
No, I agree. I agree.
And coaches should have a coach.
do you do you work with someone?
So, unfortunately, my coaches, I'm 75, so my coaches are dead. And I haven't found anybody in the last 10 years that I really want to work with. But if I could find someone, I would be over the moon.
Yeah, it's like
Spending an hour a week just on me and what I could do that could make me better is really significant. It's wonderful.
I remember in my conversations with you, you're always so sweet, and I mean the care that you showed was tremendous. And I remember at times when you had to say something that could be considered, a little uncomfortable. I remember that it was still with love, but you really went straight to the point, because I wasn't saying everything that I had to say. And like you said, I think with therapists and psychologists, you're really counting that the person you're talking to is being honest, and honesty in terms of the, let's say, the darkest parts or the darkest aspects of ourselves it's a tough thing to get. And so I believe the intuition really comes into play there, because at times you just feel, or you may sense, and please correct me if I'm wrong, that you're not hearing the whole truth, or you're not hearing someone being completely honest. And the things that I held back in saying, you would raise it in a very loving way, and it would truly make me think for the rest of the week. So
Thank
I
you.
agree with you with the therapist and psychologist, the difference between that and working with someone who has a strong intuition, such yourself. I did try a couple of sessions in therapy, and I wasn't very satisfied with the whole conversation. But you have a way of getting to the bottom of things that are not mentioned, and it generates a lot of thinking throughout that week until we meet again. So I see the difference there, and I completely agree. I think probably the success rate of psychology would very likely indicate that what we're saying here has a lot of truth behind it. I know people that have been going to therapy for a very long time. I do tell people about you all the time because I believe it's just a different approach, and I think it's much more effective. Um, yeah,
There's definitely a place for therapists and psychologists. The thing is, I don't want to keep somebody for 5 years. I want to work with you. I want to get you through it. And I want you to leave. Whereas therapists and psychologists, they want to keep you there. They want to keep you there. And you're not allowed to give your opinion on things when you're a therapist, or a psychologist. You're not giving your opinion. You have a lot of rules that you have to play by. And most of those things have to do with being smart enough to know the question that you need to ask for your patient to then come forward with what's actually happening. This takes a long time, you know. So if I'm working with someone, I really like 6 weeks. I think it takes 6 weeks to make a habit and 6 weeks to break a habit. Now, having said that, for a lot of my people who have money and they have time, they just enjoy it. So I've been working with some people for way over 20 years. I have people that I work with in the Philippines, Brazil, Zambia, Zimbabwe, East South Africa, all over, really all over. And now it's so easy because you can do it for free on WhatsApp.
right,
So I do most of my work just on the telephone. And
right.
it makes it so much easier. It used to be, I mean, in the 80s, you were probably born in the 80s, right?
I was born in '93.
93. Okay. So in the 80s, when I would go to a cocktail party, this is the kind of stuff you would hear. Oh, yes, my therapist said this, and I said that. My therapist, it was quite the thing. In the 90s, psychics became quite the thing. And there were so many frauds. It was ridiculous. Also with the coaches, I have to warn people, a lot of coaches don't have credentials. They just decided they'd be a coach. I think
Yes,
there might be online things you can do to become a coach. But I think it's important to select someone that actually knows what they're doing.
right. And so, do you believe that going to school why did you go to school for psychology? Was it to just understand a little? Can you elaborate on that for us, please?
I wanted to know how the brain works. How do people think? Why do experiences begin to shape and create a person and what they do and how they are and their behavior and characteristics? I just wanted to know about the thinking. I also hoped that I would understand why some people just don't know when the phone rings who it is. I mean, why, how come they don't know that? Or, here, I'll give you an example. When I was in third grade, my third grade teacher was a young, beautiful girl. Her name was Mrs. Pulowski. I loved her so much. And I went up to Mrs. Pulowski one day and I said, there's a bad man in your house and he's hitting you. Show me your arm. I know he's hitting you. And so anyway, we had a teachers conference, and that's when my mother and grandmother said, we don't talk about things like this. Other people don't see those things. Don't talk to Mrs. Pulowski about this.
Wow.
Now, I went to Mrs. Pulowski's retirement. So after I knew her all the way through her teaching, from being a 21-year-old girl to retirement age. And she said, Nancy, that's why I never had children. I had an extremely physically abusive husband.
Oh,
But we're talking about 70 years ago. 70 years ago, in the United States, they didn't really, people weren't aware of that. People didn't, you beat your kids. If the husband and wife had, it was different then.
yes, absolutely.
It was really different then. We've come such a long way. But so me knowing who when the phone rings, who it is, or what might have happened to my third grade teacher, I wanted to know why everybody else, I mean, how do people think? How come they don't know that? Why do I know that? So that's what drove me into psychology.
Sure.
But I really like coaching. I think coaching, I don't have to have any rules. I get to say whatever I want. I get to work with a person as long as they want to work with me. There's no insurance. I'm expensive. It's really it's a commitment. And
Yes.
I really enjoy it.
Yes. And I remember when we were going through our sessions, and I think it was about to be the sixth one. And I was asking you for to basically like get another six in. And I remember just to what you said, you're like, Pedro, I think you're fine now. If in the future you need to talk to me again, come back. And that was very refreshing, because you set me free in a way, and you gave me a certain amount of confidence, because coming from you, I took it as, okay, although I had all of these doubts, I was like, truly, I've had amazing conversations with her. She's helped me through here. And, in my mind, I knew what I had to do, but I was insecure. So it was almost me trying to hold on to that safety of talking to you every week. And to what you said, it's very, very true. You want people to leave and go figure out, go put some things in practice. And I thank you for that, because it was liberating from me, not from you. I wanted you, but you liberated me from my own insecurity with that very simple phrase that you said. That was
and everyone's different. I mean, I like 6 weeks, but a lot of times it goes longer than 6 weeks. And Pedro, if you were a millionaire and you were retired, and you just felt like, talking to me, it would have been my pleasure to talk to you once a week and go over all kinds of things. So it just depends on who you are, what your needs are. And then, when I feel like, listen, we're good, but you know how to call me.
yes.
So if something else happens, we'll pick it up from there.
Yes.
I think, everybody's different. Every situation with people is very different.
And besides your professional experience with the agencies through the countries, when did you actually start coaching individuals?
I started coaching people as soon as I left the diplomatic life. So it was, I started coaching actually in the late 90s.
Okay. Okay. And I wanted to touch on purpose, because it's a word. I mean, it's the name of the podcast is Purposefully Alive, and it's for a reason. I've been consuming some material, some better than others. I try to filter what I believe I should necessarily. It's really what doesn't resonate with me. That's what I've learned to do. Whatever really touches somewhere, especially my heart, and it just really resonates, I go with it. I think, I reflect for a while. And purpose has been just a recurrent theme in a lot of these conversations that I'm hearing. And so when did you, so would you say that all of these experiences in terms of the intuition, the knowing knowing who's calling you, knowing that your teacher was going through some horrible issues at home, but when did all of this, or how did all of this help you realize what your purpose is? And then what do you think your purpose is, first of all?
Yeah. So here, every single one of us have the same exact purpose. You know what that is?
Uh,
Soul growth.
Soul growth. Yes, yes.
That's it. So for me, my lifetime in this lifetime is about my soul growth. So I am learning by working with, I've worked with literally thousands of people, thousands. So I'm learning about soul growth, my own soul growth, by learning about you. And what do I identify with you? Absolutely, 100%. I identify with each and every person that I work with. And there's something else. When you work with someone, you develop a connection, and you understand this sort of collective community of love for everyone. So as people become better, oh my God, there's no better feeling than that. I can only imagine what a cardiac surgeon feels when they do a quadruple bypass surgery that's successful and that person is good and that person's got another 20 years to live. The feeling that you
Yes.
have, you know, it it helps my soul growth. So I'm here for soul growth. My path is going to be different from your path, from everyone's path. But I just have to say, I do believe in reincarnation. I want everyone to read one book. If there's no other book,
Let us know.
and that is Brian Weiss, his book, Many Lives, Many Masters.
We have it. Yes. My wife bought it after speaking with you. Yes.
Because he does the most brilliant job of explaining reincarnation. Basically, this is a doctor, he's a psychiatrist. And the dirty little secret is when we do hypnotherapy with people
Hmm.
and we say, okay, Pedro, you have a fear of drowning. Okay, let's say you have a fear of drowning. And so through hypnosis, I'm going to bring you back to that time when you develop that fear. Very often, people will begin to speak in another language, a language that they don't know. Some of these languages are ancient languages, and those languages have to be determined by, the school, Yale, the School of Ancient Language, because no one's heard that language before.
Understood.
So, so what happens when we do that is called xenoglossy. I can't think of any better proof of reincarnation than xenoglossy, that you're actually speaking in a language that you don't know, a language that is not readily accessible, and that has something to do with a fear that you've had an impossible time to overcome. Through
And
hypnotherapy, by the way, you will overcome the fear.
interesting.
So read this book. He will explain xenoglossy. He's a brilliant, wonderful man. He's in his late 90s. I've had the pleasure of actually meeting with him and working with him. I think it's fun to discover a previous lifetime. It kind of helps you to understand more about yourself.
Sure.
Yeah,
There's a lot
so
more to, you would say, along those lines. My conclusion is there's a lot more to, um, maybe our inclinations in this current life and what we struggle with than what we can, recall in terms of this one life, right? There is a lot
Right.
that comes from this past lives to
Right. Well, what it is we know we've decided, our souls have decided to come back. We choose our mother, our father, our geographical location, our looks, our talents. We pick all of that so that we have the best opportunity for the growth that we came here to achieve.
so with
As
that. I'm sorry, please.
yes. No, so there are no accidents. We're here for a reason. So the things that you might be struggling with, pay me now or pay me later. You better figure it out this time, because if you don't, you're going to have to come back again, and you're going to have to keep coming back until you do.
I see. And with that, I wanted to ask you, because I think we've spoken about this, and your answer was very satisfying. It resonated with me, and I'd like for everyone to hear as well. How would you describe, um, the relationship between destiny and free will? Elaborate a little bit for us on that.
Yeah, that's a perfect question. We do a little dance with destiny and free will. Listen, we were made by God to have free will. When we're making our decisions, sometimes the bad decision teaches us the most. But destiny, as I said, we choose our mother or father geographical location. We choose that so we have the best opportunity and that's what destiny is, the best opportunity in order to be able to make the decisions, right or wrong. So it's a dance. It's a little dance that we do. Every so often, destiny will take a hand in your affairs, and all of a sudden, it's like lucky breaks, fortunate meetings, all of that. And so why does destiny every so often take a hand in your affairs? It's called karma. You were really good at some point. You were really good with someone. You were generous. You were something. And so all of a sudden, destiny gives you, a kiss on the forehead and helps you along.
And even then, you continue to have free will, right? Because you might
Absolutely.
be presented with that perfect opportunity, and you still have to choose.
Exactly. And you still have the ability to say yes or no to it, you know? And just because you want something and you've made a decision to have something, doesn't mean you're going to get it all the time, because guess what? Everybody else has free will too.
Right.
So, I talk to a lot of young people, and they're in love with someone and they don't understand why this thing isn't going forward. Well, because the person you're in love with has free will too. So, free will is it's very complex. I also want to say, do you believe in angels?
You see, Nancy, I've been in a short answer, yes, but I am still really sorting all of these ideas um, to kind of make a decision on what I believe, because it's so much information. And that's why I want to have these conversations with people like you to start clearing that. But I think I do.
So here's the deal. Angels don't have free will. So,
I've heard that before too. Please,
right? So,
great.
and we're born with a guardian angel. So if you want your guardian angel to help you, you have to ask that for that help. You have to say, I am going on a drive to St. Augustine. Please guard me, make sure that there's no accidents. Please take care of my 3 children, take care of my grandchildren. Please take care of my sister Judy. Can you help her with this problem? And then the guardian angel, then your angel will have the ability to do that.
Sure.
Now, how do we know that guardian angels don't have free will? Well, then we can talk about Lucifer.
You read my mind again. I was about to ask you for your description of God, which you've already basically said, and then I wanted to go on what we consider to be the opposite side, which is what Lucifer is. Please, very curious.
Well, so Lucifer was God's most beautiful, gorgeous, intelligent, fabulous angel. And when God made all of us these clumsy, ridiculous human beings and gave them free will, Lucifer was angry. And Lucifer fell away from God and fell down into the planet Earth. And that's why we call Luciferian energy. There is, evil, there is bad energy, and you have to be aware of that energy. And so you make a decision, free will. You know, do you want to do these things that Lucifer would love us to do? You want to get into drugs and have sex with multiple people and rob people, and all of that is Luciferian energy.
Is
It
that
means that
basically Lucifer acting in spite? Is that spite for the creation of God in terms of free will?
absolutely, it's like really watch me, watch what I can do on the planet Earth. Watch how I can manipulate these things that you created called people.
Yeah.
Human beings. So we have to be aware there is such a thing as Luciferian energy. There is such a thing as Lucifer.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that in almost every religion that I know of understands that there is good and that there is evil. And we need to work hard to make the correct decisions for ourselves, our family, and the family of humanity, everyone around us. We really have to work harder on that.
Yeah, I agree. Absolutely. Would you say that Earth is also a living being to a degree? How would you describe?
I
Right.
believe that there are many planes of existence.
Mhm.
We don't always have to reincarnate and come back to the planet Earth. There are other forms of existence that we can receive more growth from.
Mhm.
But the planet Earth is a very, very special school. That's all it is. It's a school.
Understood.
You're born alone. You're going to die alone. You've got a limited time here. There is no time in spirit. So when you think, okay, my mother and my father, my grandparents, they have passed on. When I go into spirit, they will be there. They will be there to greet me. And you think, wow, that's so generous. I mean, that's many, many years of them in spirit waiting for, all of us to cross over and greet us. No, because there's no time in spirit.
There is no.
And also your animals. I have to say that too. We've all had, wonderful pets and we love them so much. The pets are having a blast in spirit, but they are waiting for you and they will greet you as you cross over.
No, I'm sure my sister, I mean, she believes in these things as well, and she'd be thrilled when she watches this because she recently lost one of the loves of her
Oh,
life, and
yeah.
it was a tough moment, but she knows they'll see each other again. She's also the strong believer in reincarnation. I think the majority of our family, as I've probably spoken to you about, in Brazil, there is a very strong spiritual movement. They don't call it a religion. They call it, if I were to translate roughly, it would be spiritism.
Yes,
Um,
yeah.
yes,
Spiritualism. Uh-huh.
yes, spiritualism. Yes, yes, yes. And so they are certainly believers in that as well.
I understand that because when I went to Brazil, I spent a little time in Brasilia,
Mhm.
which is the capital city, right?
Yes, yes.
And so, anyway, I went to this wonderful monastery. Oh my God, they make the most incredible beer. I don't know what kind of percentage it is, but it's a great big huge beer, and one beer is like drinking 5 beers in the United States, and delicious. They make a lot of stuff. But anyway, that they have someone called he was a priest, and his name was Bosco.
Hmm.
Do you know who that is?
No, no.
So Google this priest, but they built Brasilia on crystal. So I don't care what kind of earth changes there are going to be, Brasilia will remain because nothing is going to, it's the hardest rock on the planet.
Hmm.
And the Roman Catholic Church and this Reverend Bosco believed that there would be earth changes. A lot of metaphysical beliefs, in
Yes.
other words, are infiltrated into that. And it's a fabulous, fabulous place. You have to Google that. I don't know exactly where it is, but it's in Brasilia somewhere.
Sure, sure. And with that, let's go into that because we've spoken a little bit about Brazil, and we also spoke briefly when I asked you about the shift that I believe and many people are saying is taking place in terms of I don't know if it's our consciousness or just the state of earthness. I don't know exactly how to describe it. I'd like to ask you, what would you say about this concept of Earth in general shifting from a third dimensional, a three-dimensional place to a 4 or 5? I'm still confused with all of this, but can you elaborate a little bit on that for us?
Again, we as Carl Jung, one of the founders of psychology, would call this collective consciousness. Okay. So collectively, all of us human beings we are learning so much more and we are rising so much more. So from the third dimensional thinking to a much more intuitively aware and alert and alive vibrational or frequency. Let's just call it frequency. So we're going into a higher frequency right now. Everything is changing, and it's changing very quickly, as you can see.
Yes.
AI is going to be doing a lot of stuff with medicine. It's going to all be frequency. Einstein was the one who said, someday all medicine, all of what's going to happen will all be healed by frequency.
Yes. Yes.
I'm very interested in frequency. I read an article just recently. There's a new technique now. When there was thyroid cancer, a little nodule that would develop on the thyroid, people would remove the thyroid. You'd see a scar. You can see that on some people, right? Now what they do is they put a needle in and they use a frequency like a microwave. I don't know, a frequency, and it just shrinks the nodule. So you don't have to lose your thyroid. And you don't have to take thyroid medication to make up for what your thyroid did. This is new. And I think it's still out of pocket. I don't think it's mainstream yet. But they're going to be doing all this frequency healing with all kinds of cancers, and things are changing. This is some of what we're seeing with raising from third dimensional to fifth dimensional. It's just, it's a collective awareness, a spirituality. It'll affect the medical community. As I just said, it'll affect the way that we do transportation. Right now we have, we have space travel.
Yes.
But remember, Einstein discovered the wormholes, right?
Yes. Yes.
It's going to be very easy to go from one universe to another. It's all going to be happening. And when that happens, and we have, the opportunity to understand that there are more civilizations out there than just, the human beings on the planet Earth, we are going to be evolving even more quickly.
Hmm. And it feels like certainly, as you said, it's a turbulent time. There's a lot of change taking place. And it seems like a lot of confusion somehow comes with it. And the way that I see it, and please, I'd like your view on this as well. But it seems like from third dimension to the fifth, it, would that be considered the toughest time in terms of transition, since you're going from something that's so primal and bodily to more compassion and awareness, and therefore it's a big break. It feels like it feels like there's a discomfort in that break. What would you?
I don't know. I don't know if I'd call it discomfort. Here it is. So you've got an inchworm, a caterpillar, crawling around, eating the green leaves, right? And just happy as can be. And then all of a sudden, that caterpillar starts to transform, and it goes into a cocoon, wrapped in a cocoon. And then at some point, it breaks out of the cocoon and it becomes a different creature. It
Huh.
becomes a butterfly.
Right.
Now, is that painful? I don't know. I don't think so. I think it's just a natural form of evolution. And this is what's happening. It's a natural form of evolution.
Hmm.
And some people will get to that higher frequency, and other people simply won't be ready. But there's no time limit. It's not like, you better hurry up or you're going to miss out. No, you'll get there when you get there, and there's no time limit, and it's not painful.
I
Right
think
now we're seeing
you hear that.
yeah.
Yes.
Well, right now we're seeing a lot of chaos, but you know what? There's always been chaos. It's just that everything is immediate. It's at our disposal. We see everything. We didn't know there was a tsunami over in Indonesia 100 years ago. We didn't have that kind of information. So we have so much information now. It seems like it's really chaotic, but we're just human beings, and we're going as fast as we can. We're dancing as fast as we can. We're getting there as quickly and as thoroughly as we can. But not everybody is, on the same frequency, and it's okay. It's
And
okay.
there's also a lot of conversations around in terms of when the 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 majority of the collective here, all of the majority of the souls that are here on Earth. Let's say we are on fourth or fifth dimension, and there are those who are somewhat struggling to adhere to the frequency, or to connect to it, or to live in peace in this new world that I believe it's forming. When those people are deceased, when they die, um, what do they come back to Earth, or do they go to a different place that's more conducive with the learning that they have to go through?
See, that's a wonderful question. So it's every single human being, when they pass into spirit, they go through a life review. And the life review that they experience will be with higher souls, advanced souls.
Mm-hmm.
And with the help of the advanced souls, we make the decision. We look at our lives, we look at what we would have, could have, should have, wanted to, but maybe didn't. We look at the mistakes we made, we look at the beautiful things that we did, and we make a decision. Now, maybe we'll decide that another plane of existence will actually be more beneficial for the growth that we need.
Understood.
Or maybe we'll come back to the planet Earth and we'll try it again because we just didn't really quite get there. We want another opportunity. How many times have you ever said, I wish I could do that again?
Oh, many. I mean,
We
countless.
all, right? We all
Yeah.
do. We all say things like, oh, if I could have only done that. Or, oh, I wish I stayed. I wish I got my PhD. Why didn't I go to medical school? Something like that. We all do that. And so when we go through our life review, if we feel as though our soul growth would benefit from another shot around, we'll do that.
Sure.
There are other planes of existence that are, I mean, this is really kind of very abstract, but other planes of existence where you don't have a body, you exist in a gaseous form,
Hmm.
you know. And then the other question I get all the time is, do we reincarnate in the form of an animal?
That's yes, yes.
And so that's called transmigration. Some people believe in that. I think you could have a lifetime of a butterfly or something just to feel what that's like, and it's only going to be for 2 weeks, fine. But no, we keep evolving and we keep getting more and more sophisticated and aware
Yeah, I've heard
intuitive.
that question before, and I've also heard that answer to a degree very similar to what you said, that we can't necessarily, there is no soul transgression necessarily. And one way that it was explained to me about the when Jesus came to Earth, it was said to me, or it was explained that he he's so evolved and he's so much light that he had to go through a whole process in order to fit in a human body, in order to get this done. So it's kind of what you're saying, right? It's really tough to do, but again, Jesus came for a reason, and I wanted to hear your thoughts on why he came
Yeah.
and why we needed it.
So I always say very simply, if God wanted to talk to the penguins, he'd send down a penguin. God is too big for our tiny little pea brain to even begin to understand.
Uh,
So he sent a part of himself, the Christ, in a human form so that we could hear it. You know, here is someone who didn't read or write. He didn't have servants, but yet everyone called him master. He performed miracles. He did what simple people 2,000 years ago could understand perfectly. So I believe that Jesus Christ is the Christ. He is the Son of God. I'm married to a Jewish man, and we laugh because Jesus was Jewish.
right, right.
So and so the Judeo-Christian thing is a very powerful connection, and I think we really, all of us Christians, and all of us who were aware of and who are aware of the Middle East, there's a strange, amazing compassion that we have for what happened there.
Yes, yes. And I hear some thoughts around that as well. Um, that's that's interestingly put. Can you please talk to us a little bit about the archangels? They're angels after all, correct?
Yes.
And what is the difference? Why do we call? Why is there such thing as an angel and an archangel? And what function do they? How do they serve?
Yeah, so archangels are, the closer to the Godhead. Archangels are more evolved. And other angels are worker bees. So my guardian angel is not an archangel
Hmm.
watching out over all the other angels. My guardian angel is just someone who came to help and serve me. An archangel is, it's almost like the military where you have, the enlisted people, and then you've got the officers.
Hmm.
It's like
And
that. And it's all about evolution. So angels evolve as well.
understood. And can we call on them as well, the same way that we call on our guardian angels?
Absolutely. Absolutely. But you have to ask. You have to ask directly, simply, and in I guess a very direct way. You
Mhm.
have to ask what you need. What do you need?
And that would be the power of prayer, right?
And you can do it through prayer, but it doesn't have to be a formal prayer. You can make your own prayer. You don't have to say in the name of the Father, and say the Lord's Prayer or say the rosary. The rosary beads are fabulous, by the way. Just like the Buddhists have beads,
Hmm.
and the Hindus sit and they meditate. It's a form of meditation.
I wanted to go into that, the Hindus, the Buddha, because I've been doing a lot of meditating, learning about the seven chakras, and what they represent. And what do you think of that? What do you think of that wisdom? Because as far as I understand, that has been there for very thousands and thousands of years as well. And we
Yeah,
hear some amazing stories from that part of the world. I've also heard that this is again just everything I'm hearing, that Buddha was Christ. Christ was Buddha. I don't know if that's just a confusion, but when Buddha came and then when Christ came, it was kind of like, I guess it is the same, because if we're all made in the image of God and if we're all light, it's just light. And then there's some, I guess, more conscious than others, or larger than others. But what would you say about the faith in that part of the world?
So
Um,
yeah, so Hinduism is the oldest religion. And have you ever read the Bhagavad Gita?
I have to, because I've heard that 1,000 times, and
It's
I've
not that
heard the people
hard.
describe it, but I really want to, Nancy. Yes.
Yeah, it's not that hard. And I love the Hindu religion, and I had the pleasure in the, let's see, late 60s, early 70s. I worked with Swami Satchidananda. I studied underneath him. I taught yoga in New York City for a little while for him. And that, now listen, late 60s, I was a vegetarian who taught yoga. And if anybody told me that when I was 75 years old, there'd be lots of vegetarians and lots of people that I would say, you've got to be kidding me.
Yeah.
But oh, I learned so much from Swami Satchidananda. He brought the Hindu religion, yoga, hatha yoga, he brought that to the United States. An unbelievable experience for me. I also studied with Maharishi, and that was interesting. We still have TM. Yeah, I taught TM in the 70s. I meditate. I love meditation. But so I love all of the. I love Buddhism. I love Hinduism. I love the beads that you have with you have a mantra and you say your mantra and touch the bead.
Mhm.
No, it's the same thing with the rosary beads.
Yes.
Rosary beads are, 2,000 years old, or whatever. The Hindu religion, it's way older than that.
Right.
Read the Bhagavad Gita.
Hmm.
It's a very interesting, and also our Bible. I I really think it's not that hard, but what we have now we have like CDs. I guess CDs are out now, but there's a way you can just listen to the
Yes.
Bible.
Yes.
So listen to the book of Job, for instance, in the Old Testament. Understand the Old Testament is in the name of the Father. The New Testament is in the name of the Son. The Holy Spirit is where we are today. We are in the days of spirituality. Now in Brazil, you kind of put the whole thing together. But you know what I love about Brazil? In Brazil, Sunday, everybody goes to church.
Yes.
Everybody. You know why? Tell me why. Because of the party afterward.
Yes, there is a we love those gatherings, I tell you, yes.
Oh, the food and the party and the
Yes.
day. And it's just such a celebration. But again, it lifts you. It's a higher frequency.
Yes,
When you leave church, you feel differently. It's
absolutely.
beautiful. It makes me so sad now that when I go to a Roman Catholic church, you can park anywhere. Half of it's empty. People aren't having fun with it anymore, and that makes me sad.
Interesting. When you talk about frequency, I want to ask for your opinion on. So in today's day and age, we're bombarded with so much information. As you said, everything is so quick. And I know that that causes some stress. It brings awareness to things that, as you said, we didn't know 100 years ago that was taking place. I believe it was easier for you to maintain your energy leveled in a way, or even maintain that higher frequency without so much output or input from the exterior world, or not necessarily your immediate world there. And when I think about frequency and maintaining a certain level of frequency and elevating it, I think of everything that we consume today, such as movies, music, and all of these things. And what do you, how important of a part do you think that culture plays in our spiritual development, especially in the Western world, where we've become, I believe, slightly more materialistic than some other Eastern cultures. I believe that the idea of family has been somewhat disintegrating little by little as well. Whereas in Brazil, it's starting to take place. But before I left there, family was truly, I mean, it was uncles, cousins, neighbors, and that sense of community. How do you think, first of all, what do you think of our current culture in our Western world? As it compares to the eastern part of the globe. And what part do you think this plays in our ability to elevate our frequency?
You know what I think? I think we're overloaded. So let's just talk about 100 years ago, okay? Or maybe 200 years ago. We didn't wake up with an alarm clock. We woke up because it was daylight. We didn't have run in, brush your teeth, hurry up, get the kid, make sure the kids go on to school, get to work on time. You're driving your car, you're drinking coffee, you're talking on the phone, and you're blowing Johnny's nose all at the same time. 200 years ago, it wasn't like that. Maybe you rode in a horse-drawn carriage. Maybe you walked to work, but you woke up because it was light. You had a meal to break your fast. You could slowly walk to work. You listened to the birds singing. Maybe it was raining. You had an umbrella, but you were waving at your neighbors. When you got to work, whatever it was, let's say you opened your shop, you did your steps, you knew how to do it. It was memorized behavior.
Mm-hmm.
And then at night, same thing. You enjoyed your family. And when it was dark, you went to sleep. So what are we doing now? Do you know how to drive a standard car? You're
I
too young.
do, because I learned in Brazil. Yes, but
Okay.
it's not very common here. Yes.
Yeah, when I learned how to drive, we only had standard cars. So first gear, okay? We are waking up with an alarm clock. We are in first gear. But instead of going into second gear and kind of rolling out of the driveway and then getting into third gear where we're just kind of driving in the neighborhood, fourth gear is when you get on the highway.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Here, what we're doing is we're going from first gear into fourth gear. We wake up, we run, we're doing a million things. We're, and it's all really, really fast. And then at nighttime, it's like, we're still on our devices and we're doing stuff. And then it's like, okay, it's 10 o'clock. I have to shut the light off because I have to go to sleep because I have to wake up at 5. And how are you going to go from fourth gear into first gear? And if you did that with a car, Pedro,
Yeah,
your transmission would be broken.
you have a lot of issues, yes, especially with time. That car is not going to last long.
No, yeah, absolutely. You couldn't. The transmission would blow. And I think that that's what's happening to us.
Huh.
We are bombarded by all kinds of things that we're supposed to be doing. And very quickly, the competition and just the amount of information, the devices, the television, the computers, the cell phones, I feel like if I were raising children right now, they wouldn't be allowed to have a cell phone until they were like 15. I don't know. It's crazy. These kids on the school buses, their heads are down and they're looking at their cell phones.
Right.
They're not talking to each other. And so we've got a lot of just we're not having fun. They're not playing. They're going from one activity to another. They're doing all this stuff on the competition with how they're supposed to look and what their hair is supposed to look like and what they're wearing. It's way too much information. I think we are all of us a little bit neurotic from the pressures of this much going on.
Do you and would you agree that it's better for us collectively to focus a little more inward than and family, be a little more family oriented? What would you say?
Absolutely. How many families actually sit down with a tablecloth, plates, forks, and knives and have dinner together? No, it kind of doesn't even happen that way because all the kids have activities. They're all going to different things. They're standing up, grabbing something. Yes, we need more quiet time. Get rid of the cell phones. At least sit with the family for a dinner every night.
Right.
We need more time too in the morning. We need to sort of build into the day,
Right.
not just hurry up, jump in your clothes and run out the door.
Hmm. And
So
that's why I think the purpose conversation. It's interesting that you said we all have the same purpose. I was talking to my cousin whom I've been talking to quite often lately, almost every morning, and we're talking a lot about purpose. Like, what am I supposed to be doing? And I remember I told them we have to figure out how we're going to do it. But truly, the only thing we need to do is to grow our consciousness and grow our light and become more yes, to evolve spiritually. But the question is, it's the how. I think we know what we came to do, and the how is something that's confusing. I believe in this world, and what would you suggest to people? Because this is a very common conversation, Nancy, especially in my reality, my circle. It's like, what am I supposed to do? There's all this conversation about, follow your passion, but it's so broad. It's like, follow your passion. What is my passion? I like to play soccer, but I'm not gonna be Ronaldinho. I can't be Pelé. So it's weird. How would you tell people to go about finding out or discovering what they could do for life? For an example, you seem, and I know you are very passionate about coaching, helping people, giving, serving in that way, and it's almost like by being selfless, it's the best selfish act you can take because it makes you grow so much. But what would you say? How would you suggest that people go about understanding what they could be doing for the rest of their lives. I know that there's a lot of people on their 9 to 5 that they're not necessarily very happy with the occupation or with what they're doing on the day to day.
Yeah.
What would you say? Where would you start if you had to rediscover, what you're passionate about and what would bring you joy on a daily basis in terms of occupation? Because by the
I think it's important just to understand what makes you happy. And if you're not completely crazed, take a walk. Take a walk. You know, be alone for a little while and then assess what this week was the most enjoyable thing I did. What could I do in order to make money? Because we all have to make money.
yes,
What can I do to make money that makes me the most happy? You know, is there a way that I can learn or take a course in order to do something like that that would really make me happy? I think that we focus more on how much money we can make
uh,
than instead of how happy we are doing it.
mm,
Because I will tell you, whatever you love to do, that's what you're going to be the best at. And that's how you're going to make the most money.
hmm.
We
No,
kind of
there's no
go
quick
about it
solution then.
backwards.
Right, right. It's not going to be a snap of a finger, basically. Take some time to meditate, take a walk, reassess,
Take
understand.
some time inside. Think about it.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Very good. And well, the importance of faith and spirituality, if you were to kind of quickly make a statement, um, i- what would you say in terms of that, in terms of how important it is to have faith, what you think, and how important it is to connect with spirit, with your higher self, your true self, and what that can do for your life in these current times?
No, I feel as though without faith, without spirituality, I feel as though your life would be, there'd be an emptiness there and a sadness there and perhaps a little bit of a depression. So, uh, it's so important. It really is. And it's important, I think, again, when you're talking to someone, talk, find a good coach, talk to someone, and you'll find out just what's missing. And a
Hmm.
lot of times, what is missing is just having faith and having spirituality, having the understanding that we're just here at the earth school for a short time. Born alone, gonna die alone. It's really quick. Are you having fun? What are you learning?
Hmm.
And that's
I
about it.
I can, from personal experience, it's not a surprise for those who know me, but I would say that about how old am I? 31. I'd say that in my 20s, early 20s, 19 through 25, I would say I used to call myself an atheist, and it was a very weird time in my life. A lot of learning, absolutely, as you said, it comes through with a lot of pain, but it was an interesting time in my life. And looking back now, I see how empty it was. It was a pursuit of things that don't necessarily have much meaning, and end up, you know, diminishing your frequency in a way. And it's kind of a snowball. And once I was, exposed again to the spiritual side of things, it resolved now it's been many years of trying, and it's been about a year or two of meditating frequently, not as frequently as I'd like to, but what that has done for me is it's resolved a lot of fears, and it's brought a good amount of peace. And so I do believe that it's truly, it can be very empty. And I think that the rate of depression that we see in the world today is probably indicative of the lack of spirituality and the true connection with our higher selves. Because as you said, we came here for a reason, and it feels like the more you ignore that spiritual growth, or you just put that aside, it's like you're stuck in a way, and it causes so much discomfort that we usually don't know where it's coming from. But once you start getting into or becoming more faithful, um, having faith in yourself, in your process, and learning about the spirituality, I feel like a lot of that dissolves. And I'd say that as a whole, would be very beneficial for us to start going more in that direction.
So I think here's the deal. So when you had that emptiness between 18 and 25, it's empty. So what do you fill it with? Well, vodka,
Yeah.
you know, drugs, bad, who knows what. But
Mhm.
that's what you start to do. You fill it with the wrong things.
Yes. Nancy,
Pedro, it was so lovely to talk to you
it's my
today.
pleasure. Thank you very, very much. I'm so happy to speak with you. Can we end with your that quick prayer that you say before we go into those sessions? I think it's beautiful. It's a reminder of who we truly are. If you don't mind, can you say those words for us?
Yes. So I would like for you to know that you are never alone. You are always, always with, well, my prayer is a little bit different from that, but I want you to know that you are never alone, that you are surrounded by angelic presence. You are surrounded by so much energy. And so therefore, I want you to know that you are not your body, you are not your brain, you are not even your mind, you are spirit. And all you have to do is remember that, to know that there is no end to what you can do, not intellectually, not spiritually, not physically. There's absolutely no limitation.
Perfect. Thank you very much once again for your time. It's
Thank
been a pleasure,
you.
Nancy. Have a very
It
beautiful
was
day.
so much fun to talk to you, Pedro.
Thank you. Thank you very
You have
much.
a wonderful
I
day.
truly enjoyed it. You as well, Nancy. Have
Okay.
a great day.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
All righty. Bye bye.